Somehow we have ended up in a situation where anytime anything happens in the world, 5 billion people who use the internet are supposed to scramble, run around, and try to figure out what actually happened. What was the sequence of events? Where did things happen? What happened first? What's the most important thing that happened? What is the thing that impacts them? What is fake versus what's real? What's the information that's actually up to date versus what's the information that's outdated? What are the things that matter to them for their business that they should be aware of coming out of what's going on? How should they position themselves? How should they position their and prepare their families? How should they position their business? How do they make themselves more resilient? How do they understand what are all the potential outcomes that can happen between then at the end of the year or the next 2 years within that narrative or within that story? How do they, um, again, batten down the hatches if they need to prepare or figure out the best way to take advantage of what's going on in a productive way? It seems like anytime anything happens in the world, whether it's something that's kind of breaking news or just something that could be happening in your day to day that's just happening online, that we're all supposed to scramble with a pen and paper and start doing the figuring out on paper about what's going on. It reminds me of that Charlie meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's on the whiteboard making all the connections. And the reality is that it doesn't really make any sense that that's how we're operating, right? Ultimately, people generally want to help other people, and there's a lot that we gain from secondhand knowledge, meaning somebody else touched a hot stove in the past and they told you or you saw what happened when they did that, and so you now know not to touch the hot stove. That's how humanity's big corpus of knowledge has always evolved, is because we have learned from folks who came before us. We learn what works, what doesn't work, and that doesn't mean that there aren't lessons that we need to learn for ourselves, or that we could know that something is harmful or bad and still do it anyway. Like, of course, all that is part of being human, but it does mean that there's ample evidence that when we can learn from other people, when we can, if somebody discovers something about whatever they are looking into, and other people can benefit from it, then we are better off, especially if we trust that person or that node in the network, at making our own determinations, but aided by what that person may have found, or what a network of people or a network of individuals or nodes would have found, in terms of whatever we are discussing that's relevant in that context. And so that is essentially the foundations and the genesis of credible AI as humanity's collective sense making platform. I believe we are at the precipice now where whenever you look at any information online, it's very, very difficult for you to ascertain, is this real or not? Is this legitimate or not? And real or not is one thing in terms of if you're looking at a photo and it's AI generated or not. But what's more important is the substance of the information within that, right? What's most important is what is the information within that photo or media asset. What is the information that you could be looking at a news story that's being reported by AI voiceover actors or AI voiceover generated characters, but it's less so about whether they're AI generated or not, and more so about what is the substance of what they're talking about. Is that something that's actually relevant? Is that something that's actually updated? Is that something that you should be paying attention to? Does that matter to you? Does that matter to your business? Does that matter to your family? And so we believe that we are better off if we build a very simple platform that allows people to collaborate on, let's just say, the facts of the case, or the markers that they believe that other people should be aware of when they look at specific pieces of content, when they look at specific claims, when they look at specific even regulations, right? What is that surrounding context that can be added by the network plus the machine, which is the platform helping people make those determinations or helping people find the right sources, such that when you look at something and we can give you an indicator of usefulness or relevance or confidence in that information for you, that you're able to look into where's that coming from. right? Who are the people that are contributing to that have been right in the past, and so you're more likely to trust them? Who are the people that maybe you know personally, and so that's why you trust them more, and maybe like that's the judgment that you want to uphold. Very frankly, like who are the people, like the content creators or the journalists or the writers who or the influencers who have been right in your opinion towards things that matter to you in the past, and so now you're more likely if they're also endorsing a certain point of view, to trust them. And a lot of this happens today in very indirect ways. Of course, you can follow your favorite content creator or journalist. You can look at their Instagram, and people are broadcasting information on all these platforms all the time. However, what those platforms miss is really giving you a way to make sense of massive amounts of information in a very easy way when you're actually consuming that information in context. On the one side, that's on the consumption side. And on the creator side, where people are actually contributing to these platforms, giving those creators a way to get credit in a very real way, and get credit if they're right for being right or being credible or being well researched, rather than just for getting eyeballs. Because if you want to just get eyeballs, of course, you say the most out there thing, and it may not even be malintentioned. It may be that you're saying it in the right spirit, but the incentives are very much to go that ridiculous direction, to attract eyeballs, to form clickbait. Because all that matters is, like, did people come to your video? Did they watch it? Did they stay on it? Did people come to your article? Did they spend time on the page? Did they look at your tweet? I worked at Twitter on Twitter's core engagement mechanics and platform. And in that building, for the entire time that I was there, and it could be that maybe some of the other teams are more dedicated to the space, but I was on the primary product. I was on the home feed, the news feed essentially. And I don't really remember one conversation around the credibility of information that people were looking at. It's the conversation was always around engagement. How do we get people to spend more time on the platform? How do we get them to use the like button more? How do we get them to talk to other people more on the platform? How do we get them to create more? And there's nothing inherently, like, let's say, wrong with those goals, but the point that I'm making is just that it wasn't really a focus to say, hey, is what you're looking at credible or not? Is what you're looking at worth your time or not? There's a reason that you could be looking at a very simple example of this is you could be looking at a news post on Instagram or on Twitter, and it could be that what you're looking at is just, let's just even say it's not credible because it's outdated, right? You're looking at something about an oil spill, and let's say that since that story happened, a lot of other things that happened in that narrative, such that what you're looking at is no longer accurate. Well, the question is, does the platform tell you that today? And the answer is the platform doesn't. And the question is, why doesn't it? And the answer is because the platform benefits from you figuring that out by going through 10 stories rather than just figuring it out because the platform told you, hey, we've actually looked at other things that have happened since then. This story is no longer up to date. Actually, this is the most updated source of truth. And I think that's causing a situation where a lot of people are either going off of outdated information and let's say being outraged or being upset about things that are not even valid anymore because like other things have happened, but they just happen to see the old version on whatever their the platform of choice for content consumption was. Or it's causing people and it's causing people to be divided, right? Because when you look at old information or you look at information that's not complete in context, and you're talking with somebody else and they have a complete understanding that's different from what your understanding is, that's going to cause more friction, that's going to cause more conflict, that's going to cause division, and you might end up actually more divided than you would have been if you had kind of been on the same page about the things that are actually worth being on the same page about, and then maybe you were in disagreement about some of the finer details which you could have resolved as being reasonable human beings. But I think that shared foundation is what is increasingly missing. It's been eroded and is eroding, and I think that creates a dangerous situation where as we move from a world of Google search and persistent sources of information where you could look up the same news article 3 times and it would still say the same thing because like it was written and it was published, and then Google pointed you to that news article. Instead, we are in a situation where you could look at something on one of these chatbots for AI, and every time you search, even for that same term or that same news or the same ongoing development that's happening, you get a different result. So it's not even like even the same person is able to get the same result predictively and deterministically, but it's also that every time you and somebody else look for the same information, unless it's something very, very straightforward, like a number, which can also be different, but you're going to get a different result and the other person is going to get a different result. And so, how are you supposed to have a conversation with your neighbor about something, or how are you supposed to have a conversation with a business peer of yours about something that's going on if you and the other person or the other business don't even have a consistent shared set of information to go off of? It does not mean that people are going to agree about everything. It does not mean that we can create a compendium of facts that are perfectly, checked and they're always consistent and they always take one line. I think that's taking it to the extreme. But there's a happy middle where we can say, hey, we believe that there's value in having a deterministic set of information that evolves and is always up to date with the latest that's going on. There is value in telling you which sources this information is coming from. And there is value in just over time helping you refine your understanding of your confidence level that should be in that particular set of data and how that applies to yourself and your business. And that's very much the genesis of credible AI. We believe this is our generation's lightning call for the next 100 years, is how do we define a platform? How do we define a way of interacting with each other, leveraging the best parts of both human ingenuity and AI, in a way that we can build something that we are better off together for having, right? We're better off together for having a platform that people can collaborate on, that people can help make sense of things with each other on, that people can be rewarded for being right or being credible, or at least adding in good faith to the conversation or to the corpus of information, rather than just kind of running around in circles or repeating the same information. So I'll leave you with that thought. What if we had a collective sense-making platform for the 5 billion internet users in the world? What if we, every time something happened, didn't have to run around like chickens trying to figure out what's going on? What if we could bring that idea that, humans can be trusted more than we think that they can be, and that, we can like each other more than we are technically supposed to, and that we can be participating in good faith, and that we can agree and disagree with each other on specific topics, and maybe that's fine. But it's hard to do that when that platform that you're standing on can shift at any moment, right? When it's quicksand. If you're standing on quicksand and the other person's standing on quicksand, you're much more focused on not slipping through the sand than you are on trying to help each other or trying to, form a collective understanding with the other person. So that's our goal. That's our mission. That's what we've been working on for a long time now. And we are looking for like-minded folks to join us. So please reach out with your feedback, your thoughts, and let's go.